A lone man trekking through a snow-covered forest stumbles upon a nearly frozen canine German Shepherd puppy, barely clinging to life. He thinks he's just saving an innocent dog, but what he discovers beneath the ice changes everything. Get ready for a story filled with suspense, resilience, and a shocking twist that will leave you speechless. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. The wind howled through the dense pine forest, carrying with it an unforgiving chill. Logan Carter, an experienced outdoorsman, pulled his coat tighter around his body as he trudged through the deep snow. His cabin wasn't far, but the storm was getting worse, and he needed to hurry. The last thing he expected was to hear a faint, pitiful whimper carried by the wind. Logan stopped in his tracks. He listened carefully. There it was again, a weak cry, almost drowned out by the storm. He turned his head, scanning the white expanse. A few yards away, half buried in the snow, was a small trembling form. His breath caught in his throat as he rushed toward it. It was a puppy, a German Shepherd, no older than a few months. Its fur was covered in ice, its tiny body barely moving. Logan's heart pounded as he knelt beside the frozen creature, gently brushing snow off its fragile frame. The dog's breathing was shallow, its eyes dull. "Hang in there, buddy," Logan murmured, slipping off his gloves and wrapping his hands around the pup's icy body. He knew time was running out. If he didn't act fast, the little guy wouldn't make it. With quick movements, Logan unzipped his coat and tucked the pup inside, letting his body warmth seep into the freezing animal. The puppy whimpered again, barely reacting. He had to get it back to the cabin, fast. As he lifted the dog, something hard and solid beneath the snow caught his foot. Logan stumbled slightly and looked down. That's when he saw it, a dark shape just beneath the surface of the ice. His pulse quickened. He reached out and brushed away more snow. What he saw sent a shiver down his spine. It wasn't just ice. There was something underneath it, something big. And it was buried just a few inches below where the puppy had been lying. What was hidden beneath the ice? And how did the puppy end up here? Logan's breath came in quick, frosty puffs as he crouched over the ice, staring at the dark mass beneath. His instincts screamed at him to get the puppy back to safety, but his curiosity wouldn't let him walk away just yet. With one arm securely holding the trembling pup against his chest, he reached down with his free hand and brushed away more snow. The ice beneath was thinner than he had expected, revealing jagged cracks where something heavy had disturbed it. Then he saw it. Metal. Rusted, dented, and partially submerged. It wasn't just any debris. It was a hatch, a buried door in the middle of the wilderness. Logan's pulse quickened. Who had put it here? And why was a helpless German Shepherd puppy left freezing on top of it? He glanced down at the puppy, its small body still struggling against the cold. There was no time to waste. The dog came first. Gritting his teeth, Logan turned away from the mysterious hatch and trudged toward his cabin, his legs burning from the deep snow. The storm was closing in fast, the wind biting into his exposed skin. His cabin finally appeared through the haze of falling snow, a modest but sturdy structure nestled between towering pines. Logan pushed inside, the warmth from the fireplace instantly battling the cold clinging to his clothes. He moved swiftly, setting the puppy on a thick wool blanket by the fire. Grabbing a dry towel, he began rubbing the dog's fur, careful but firm, trying to coax warmth back into its tiny body. "Come on, buddy. Stay with me," Logan murmured. The pup whimpered weakly, its small chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. Logan had seen frostbite before. This little one had been dangerously close to losing the fight. As he worked, his mind kept drifting back to the hatch. Something about it didn't sit right with him. A hidden door, frozen under layers of ice, in the middle of nowhere. And this puppy, left there as if guarding it. Coincidence? He didn't think so. The puppy stirred slightly, letting out a faint cry. Logan's focus snapped back. He reached for a bottle of warm water, dripping a few drops into the pup's mouth. Slowly, the dog's tiny pink tongue flicked out, lapping at the water. Relief flooded Logan. That's it. You're a fighter, huh? As the puppy's shivering lessened, Logan finally let himself lean back against the chair, exhaling. His muscles ached, exhaustion creeping in, but his mind was far from calm. Something was buried out there, and he had a gut feeling it was something he wasn't supposed to find. But come morning, he was going back. The storm raged through the night, rattling the cabin's wooden walls, but Logan barely slept. His mind kept circling back to the hatch buried beneath the ice and the puppy that had been left to freeze on top of it. By dawn, the wind had died down, leaving behind an eerie silence. Logan sat by the fireplace, sipping a cup of black coffee, his gaze fixed on the sleeping German Shepherd pup curled up in a thick wool blanket. The little guy had made it through the night, his breathing steadier, his body no longer trembling. "Looks like you're tougher than you look," Logan murmured, reaching down to gently scratch the pup's ears. The puppy stirred, letting out a soft whimper before blinking up at him with tired but alert eyes. Logan stood up. His decision had already been made. He had to go back. After layering up in his warmest gear, he stepped outside, inhaling the crisp morning air. The world was still blanketed in snow, the landscape untouched except for his own tracks from the night before. He glanced toward the tree line where he had found the puppy, then started moving. His breath came in steady puffs as he retraced his steps, boots crunching through the icy surface. Within minutes, he was standing over the same spot where he had nearly tripped the night before. The hatch. Kneeling down, he cleared away the remaining snow and ice, revealing the rusted metal handle. It looked old, decades old, but the fact that it was hidden meant someone had wanted it to stay that way. Logan hesitated for only a second before gripping the handle and pulling. It didn't budge. He stood up, adjusting his stance, then yanked harder. A loud creak echoed through the empty forest as the frozen hinges groaned in protest. Then, with a final pull, the hatch snapped open. A gust of stale, frozen air rushed up from the darkness below. Logan coughed, waving his hand in front of his face, squinting into the black void beneath him. It wasn't just an old storage bunker. Metal stairs led down into what looked like a hidden underground facility. His stomach clenched. What the hell was this place? A faint sound reached his ears. Not the wind, not the creaking of the old hatch. A soft, mechanical hum. Something down there was still running. Logan's instincts screamed at him to turn back. But something about this, about the puppy, the hatch, the strange, unnatural hum from below, made him step closer instead. Peering into the darkness, Logan took a deep breath. Then, gripping his flashlight, he climbed down. Logan's boots clanged against the cold metal stairs as he descended into the unknown. The air was thick with dust and something else, something old and stale, as if the place had been sealed off for years. The faint mechanical hum grew louder with each step, vibrating through the narrow corridor beneath the hatch. His flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing concrete walls lined with rusted pipes. The space wasn't just a simple bunker. This was something much larger. He reached the bottom of the stairs and paused, listening. The puppy, still nestled inside his coat, let out a soft whimper. Logan instinctively tightened his grip around the little body, feeling its warmth against his chest. Ahead of him, a heavy steel door stood slightly ajar. The hum was coming from inside. Taking a steady breath, Logan reached out and pushed the door open. It groaned on its hinges, revealing a dimly lit underground room filled with old equipment. Rows of file cabinets lined the walls, covered in dust. In the center of the room sat a long metal table with papers scattered across it. But what caught Logan's attention was the source of the humming, a blinking terminal screen. Someone had been here, recently. His fingers tightened around the flashlight as he stepped forward. The terminal displayed lines of old system commands, a few flashing warnings in red text. The rest was unreadable, coded in a language he didn't understand. Then, movement. Logan whipped around, heart hammering. A rack of metal tools had shifted slightly, as if something, or someone, had brushed against it. He wasn't alone down here. A low, guttural growl rumbled from inside his coat. The puppy, barely strong enough to move the night before, was suddenly tense against his chest, ears pricked. Logan didn't wait. He grabbed a rusted wrench from the table and backed up toward the stairs, his breath coming in short, controlled bursts. He could feel it now, a presence in the shadows. Then, just as he reached the bottom step, something lurched out of the darkness. A blur of movement, tattered clothing, sunken eyes, skin pale as death. A man. But his movements were jerky, unnatural. His mouth opened, but no sound came. Logan's instincts kicked in. He swung the wrench hard, slamming it into the figure's shoulder. The man staggered but didn't fall. Instead, he reached out. And that's when Logan saw it. The man's eyes weren't human anymore. They were glassy, empty, like something had taken over. Logan didn't stay to find out what. He turned and bolted up the stairs. The puppy barked, a sharp, panicked sound. Logan's muscles burned as he launched himself out of the hatch, slamming the door shut behind him. His breath came fast, white puffs of air mixing with the morning cold. His hands shook as he secured the rusted latch. Something had been down there, something unnatural, and now Logan wasn't sure if he had sealed it inside or locked himself out. Logan's breath came fast and uneven as he leaned against the hatch, his heartbeat thundering in his ears. The freezing morning air burned his lungs, but it was nothing compared to the chilling sight he had just witnessed underground. The man, if it even was a man anymore, had moved like something unnatural, and those eyes, void, empty, controlled. The German Shepherd puppy stirred inside Logan's coat, letting out a soft whimper. Logan swallowed hard, forcing himself to think. He had stumbled onto something he was never meant to find. The puppy wasn't abandoned by accident. It was left there as a warning, or a test. But a test for what? He glanced down at the small dog, now pressing against his chest for warmth. What the hell were you guarding, little guy? The storm from the night before had left fresh snowfall covering his tracks, but Logan knew he had to leave, fast. Whatever was down there, whatever was waking up beneath the ice, was something he wanted no part of. But then, a sound made him freeze. A click. Then another. His head snapped toward the hatch. The metal latch was unlocking on its own. No, no, no. Adrenaline surged through his veins as Logan stumbled backward, his hand already reaching for his hunting knife. The hatch groaned, hinges creaking as it slowly lifted open. And then, a voice. Not from below. From the radio in his cabin. His head whipped around, eyes locking onto the cabin just yards away. His old emergency radio, which hadn't worked in years, was crackling with static. Then, through the distortion, a distorted voice rasped, "Return the asset, or you won't make it out." Logan's blood ran cold. His body moved before his brain even caught up. He turned and sprinted toward the cabin. Behind him, the hatch swung open violently. He didn't look back. He didn't want to see what was climbing out. Something had just been released. Bursting through the door, Logan slammed it shut behind him, bolting it. He grabbed the old radio, static still crackling through the speakers. "Who is this?" he demanded. For a moment, only silence. Then, "You took something that wasn't yours." Logan looked down at the puppy. The tiny German Shepherd lifted its head, eyes meeting his. And that's when Logan finally understood. The puppy wasn't just a dog. It was the key. But to what? Outside, the wind howled, and something heavy stepped onto his porch. Logan's fingers tightened around the old radio as the voice crackled again. "Return the asset, or you won't make it out." His pulse pounded in his ears. Outside, the sound of heavy footsteps sent a chill down his spine. Something, or someone, was standing on his porch. The German Shepherd puppy, still curled up inside his coat, let out a faint whimper. Logan glanced down at the small dog, his mind racing. The puppy wasn't just a stray. It was the reason all of this was happening. The voice had called it an asset. A warning bell screamed in Logan's mind. This wasn't just a buried bunker. It was something far worse. Something classified. He moved fast. Logan yanked open a drawer, grabbing his old revolver, hands steady despite the panic clawing at his chest. He'd spent years surviving in these mountains. He wasn't about to be hunted like some helpless prey. A loud thud shook the cabin. Logan took a step back, every muscle in his body tense. The door shuddered as something heavy pressed against it. Then, a slow, deliberate scratching noise. The voice on the radio returned, softer now. "You don't understand what you have. Open the door, Carter." Logan froze. They knew his name. His stomach twisted. He hadn't told anyone about this place. His cabin was off the grid, unreachable, except by those who already knew how to find him. His grip on the revolver tightened. Another noise outside. A mechanical click. Logan's instincts screamed at him. Gun. Now. He pivoted toward the window, just in time to see a shadowy figure moving through the snow. Dressed in black, face obscured by a tactical mask. Military. But not just military. Something else. They weren't calling out, weren't identifying themselves. That meant they weren't here to negotiate. The scratching at the door stopped. Then, silence. Logan held his breath. He knew better than to believe they had left. The puppy stirred inside his coat, shifting slightly, its tiny paws pressing against his chest. Logan could feel the rapid thump of its heartbeat. It was scared, but not of the cold, of them. He crouched low, moving toward the back of the cabin. His mind worked fast. He had two options: stay and fight. Hold them off as long as possible. Get out. Take the puppy and disappear. Option 2 was smarter, but they were already outside, and the hatch in the forest, whatever was down there, was already loose. Logan exhaled slowly. He made his decision. He wasn't running. Not yet. Carefully, he grabbed his hunting knife and slid it into his belt. The revolver stayed in his grip. One way in, one way out. He moved toward the back window, peering through the frost-covered glass. Another figure. Standing still, watching. Waiting. Whoever they were, they weren't in a rush. Because they thought they had him trapped. Logan's jaw tightened. They didn't know who they were dealing with. Then, the first shot rang out. The cabin exploded in splinters as a bullet tore through the wooden wall, missing Logan's head by inches. He dropped to the floor, instincts taking over. Another shot. Then another. They weren't trying to kill him. They were trying to drive him out. The puppy yelped in fear, pressing itself against his chest. Logan gritted his teeth. He had no choice now. He had to move. Heart pounding, he reached for a smoke grenade from his emergency stash. He hadn't used them in years, but now seemed like the perfect time. Pulling the pin, he rolled it toward the front door. A thick cloud of smoke filled the room instantly. Time to go. In one swift motion, Logan scooped up the puppy and bolted toward the back door. He kicked it open and ran. The cold hit him like a sledgehammer, but he didn't stop. Footsteps thundered behind him, But he had the advantage. He knew these woods. Branches whipped against his face as he tore through the snow, heading for the only place they wouldn't expect him to go, the hatch. If they wanted whatever was inside so badly, then Logan needed to know why. The bunker loomed ahead, the metal hatch still gaping open. He didn't slow down, didn't think. He jumped inside. Darkness swallowed him whole. Above, the footsteps stopped. Then, a voice from the radio, now clipped and urgent. "Stop him! Now!" Then, the hatch slammed shut. Darkness enveloped Logan as the hatch slammed shut above him. The sudden silence was deafening, save for the distant mechanical hum echoing through the underground chamber. His breath came in sharp, controlled bursts as he gripped the revolver in one hand and cradled the trembling German Shepherd puppy against his chest with the other. Above, footsteps rushed across the snow, shouts muffled by layers of concrete and ice. They were trying to get to him. Or worse, keep him trapped. His pulse hammered in his ears as he flicked on his flashlight. The bunker was larger than he had realized, stretching out in a eighteen of corridors. Dust-covered crates and rusted metal racks lined the walls, marked with faded government insignias. Logan's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a bunker. It was a facility. His instincts screamed at him. This was classified, military, buried beneath the snow for a reason. He moved forward cautiously, scanning the room. The mechanical hum was louder now, pulsing through the walls. Then, his flashlight caught something. A glass chamber. It stood at the far end of the room, partially shattered, filled with shattered tubes and wires spilling onto the floor. Logan's gut clenched as he moved closer. Something had been inside, and whatever it was, it had escaped. The puppy whimpered softly against his chest. Logan glanced down at it, the pieces finally clicking into place. This wasn't just any dog. It was the last one left. A folder lay open on the nearby table, pages yellowed with time but still legible. Logan scanned the first few lines, his chest tightening with every word. Project Nova. Classified, Level Omegas. Subject, 044, Genetic Bioengineering Experiment, K9 Unit. His blood ran cold. They weren't just training dogs here, they were creating them. A chilling realization settled over him. This puppy wasn't abandoned. It was the only survivor. Something growled in the darkness. Logan's breath hitched. The flashlight wavered in his grip as he turned toward the sound. A shadow moved, slow, deliberate, stalking him from the far end of the room. Logan's instincts flared, and he raised his revolver. Then he saw it. Eyes. Not human, not entirely animal. A twisted form stepped into the dim light. It had once been a canine, but now it was something else. Patches of matted fur clung to its unnaturally stretched limbs. Its snout twitched, revealing razor-sharp teeth, far too long for a normal dog. And its eyes, glassy, hollow, unnatural, locked onto Logan. His pulse thundered. This was what they had been making, and this was what had escaped. The puppy in his arms tensed, ears flattening as it let out a low, warning growl. Logan felt it too. The air shifted. The thing lunged. Logan fired. The gunshot roared through the bunker, the muzzle flash illuminating the horror in front of him for a split second. The bullet hit its target, but the creature kept coming. Logan dove to the side, rolling as the mutated beast crashed into the wall, snarling. It was fast. Too fast. He scrambled to his feet, gripping the puppy tightly as he ran. A door loomed ahead. Logan slammed into it, twisting the rusted handle. Locked. Behind him, claws scraped against metal. It was getting up. Logan's mind raced. Think, damn it. Then, his eyes locked onto something. A row of old gas canisters lined against the far wall. He aimed. Another shot. The explosion rocked the facility, fire erupting as Logan threw himself behind a crate. The heat seared his skin, but he didn't stop. The creature let out a piercing shriek, its twisted body collapsing beneath the flames. Logan didn't wait to see if it was dead. He ran. The bunker trembled. Cracks split across the ceiling as the explosion weakened the structure. He had minutes before this place came down on top of him. With every ounce of strength, Logan sprinted toward the hatch. The puppy barked, its tiny frame shaking, but it held on. The ladder was still there. Logan climbed, faster than he ever had before. Above, gunfire echoed through the trees. They were still out there. But right now, that was the least of his problems. With one final push, he burst out of the hatch, collapsing into the snow as the bunker caved in behind him. Silence. Only the howling wind remained. Logan gasped for air, the puppy still clutched tightly in his arms. It had survived. They both had. Then, movement. Figures in black emerged from the tree line. The men who had been hunting him, the ones who wanted the dog back. But Logan had seen what they had done, what they had made, and there was no way in hell he was giving the puppy back. He ran, faster, toward the mountains, toward the unknown. He didn't know what came next, but one thing was clear. This wasn't over. And they weren't going to stop until they had the asset back. But Logan wasn't going to let them. Not now. Not ever.